Hello everyone. Welcome to my music tutorials for people who want to compose music, but also people who simply want to enjoy music and understand it better. A while ago, I wrote a sketch for you of a scherzo symphony movement. I've been showing you the process of orchestration, and here we'll finish that orchestration, and we'll get to listen to the final scherzo. However, really, the scherzo part of the movement is the first part, the A part. Then you get to the trio part, the middle part, and then you get to the opposite side of the sandwich. So when I say we're finishing the scherzo today, I mean we're finishing part A, which makes a miniature little movement of its own. We don't have much left to do, so let's get right into the orchestrating. Last time we ended with some big block chords in full orchestra. Let's listen to how the passage continues in its original sketch. As you listen, try to think about the instrument sounds you might want to add. And apologies to your ears, this passage starts with a bang in full orchestra. So right off, I'm going to do something quick and easy here. We have a loud part in full orchestra, and then a quiet echo. And I'm going to move that echo from the strings to the winds. We could have used the naked strings here, or the naked brass, but I already know that the winds are the right sound here. It's idiomatic, it's typical of the early Romantic period. That doesn't mean you have to do it this way. You follow your own aesthetic in your own music. The second point I'd like to make here is about the distribution of wind instruments. It looks fancy. There's 8 instruments, 2 flutes, 2 oboes, 2 clarinets, 2 bassoons. But really, there's only 4-part harmony here, and I'll show you how. The flutes are doubling the oboes an octave higher. So really, this is only 2 instruments, 2 oboes that have been given fluty overtones. And down here, the bassoons are doubling the bottom clarinet. Remember, the clarinets are transposing instruments. So this note is an E, and the bassoons carry that E and double it an octave lower. So again, we really have 2 instruments here, an upper clarinet and a lower clarinet that has been given a deep bassoony resonance. Together, you get 4-part harmony. Wind writing can't always be as orderly as this, but when nothing else is going on, when you have naked wind chords, you have the luxury of simple harmonic perfection. Let's listen to the full orchestra and the wind echo. See how nice and simple that is? As for the rest of this passage, let's scroll forward and see it better. And let's take this relatively detailed sketch and distribute it properly among the string instruments. There's nothing fancy going on here, and most of it is just octave doublings. It sounds like this now. I usually move to the winds next. I feel this passage is forthright. It doesn't need anything complex or subtle, so I'm just going to have the woodwinds duplicate the strings. Here's what that looks like, and here's what the woodwinds sound like. There's a few things I tweaked, like I left out the bassoons here. They come in here. And these kinds of minor nuances probably don't make that much difference. And when you orchestrate, you can listen carefully and modify and edit, and that's how you get these tiny little changes that satisfy your own ear. You might wonder about the flute writing. The flutes are very low in these places. The truth is, nobody will hear them. They might as well just not be playing. The low flutes won't make a contribution in the middle of all these other instruments. So why bother including them? Maybe to keep the aesthetic appearance of melodic continuity. If the flutes were an octave higher, in their proper range, you'd hear them just fine, but they would destroy the strong, gritty, reedy sound that I'm trying to get here. This should sound like robust peasants jumping up and down. I'm going to put in the horns here just to support the woodwinds in a few crucial moments. And I'm going to use the trumpets and trombones to emphasize a few key moments. As usual, the trombones are in 3s, trumpets in 2s. Now this is what the passage sounds like. See, we get another little quiet echo at the end, and then a loud echo. So let's scroll forward and consider how to handle the echoes. For the quiet one, I think I'll leave the melody in the first violins, and let's add some very simple woodwind sustaining notes. There's a lot of options for woodwind sounds, and here I'm choosing the oboes and clarinets, and I'm interlocking them. The bottom note of the oboe overlaps the top note of the clarinets. It helps to blend them together. And that's all we need for these 4 measures. For the louder echo here, let's do exactly the same, but we'll beef it up a little. The melody can be doubled in the first and second violins to give it a sudden increase in weight. And for the wind sustaining chord, let's really pile on. We don't need the heavy brass involved, but we can pile everything else in there. That'll give a nice big ringing sound. And why not a bit of the lower strings emphasizing the downbeats? Now it sounds like this. Now let's move to the last segment I'll show you today. The sketch sounds like this. You can hear that it slides right back into the main theme, like a kind of a recapitulation. The return of the main theme can be handled much like the first time at the start of the movement, so our orchestration for it is already done, and we really only have these 16 measures left to orchestrate. I'm hearing a division in which the first 4 bars are loud stuff, the next 4 bars are quiet stuff, and then we have loud stuff again, before sliding back into the main theme. Building around that set of contrasts, here's my orchestration. I could explain every little detail of it, but instead, let me make one main point about this orchestration. What I'm trying to do here is to maximize contrasts. I want a variety of sounds. For 4 measures, we have some big loud chords punctuating the downbeats, like a sledgehammer. Then the big loud chords turn into little tiny chords in the second violins and the violas. That's a huge change in color. Then they change again and turn into woodwind chords. Then the chords banging on the downbeats disappear altogether and change into these sustained chords. Here's another example of keeping the sound always changing. I didn't like the tune having the same color through all 4 of these measures. It felt too static. So I threw in a bassoon here, doubling the first violins. The only purpose of this bassoon line is to make the violin tune undergo a change of color, so these 2 measures feel different from these 2 measures. Again, the sound is always changing. And here the color changes yet again. The tune is carried not only by the first and second violins, but here also it's picked up by the cello an octave lower, while the rest of the strings are roaring away on the repeated 8th notes. It doesn't really matter how the music sounds right here in this moment. What matters is how the sound here is different from the sound right before it and right after it. Orchestration is about change. I had a wonderful conversation recently with a very naive person who said that orchestration must be relatively easy because you just have all the instruments play at the same time through the whole piece. But for a rock band, you have to switch back and forth with the keyboard and the guitar solo and the vocals and so on. Well, I didn't know how to respond, so I self-advertised and said, "Oh, you should watch my YouTube channel." I don't think he did, but he wasn't wrong about rock bands. Well, a rock band has less instrumental contrast than an entire orchestra, but a lot of the principles are similar, and you're always looking to change it up. You're always looking for contrast. Let's listen to the full orchestration for these measures. And we go right back into the main theme, which means we're done with the orchestration. Well, we're done with the orchestration of the A part, the scherzo part of the scherzo movement. And we can go back to the beginning and play through the whole thing. It's about 3 minutes of music. It makes a whole little piece with its own beginning, middle, and end. I think you can get a sense of the time ratios here. 3 minutes of music took 3 20-minute videos to orchestrate. Without all the explanation that I put into the videos, if I focused on the task, I could probably knock out an orchestration in a couple hours, but it probably wouldn't be any good. Sometimes movie composers can rip through standardized orchestrations very quickly, but it all kind of sounds the same, kind of bland, factory produced. It's better to mull over it, try it different ways, and take a few days, or as long as you need. And although that sounds like a long time for 3 minutes of music, it's a good thing, because writing music, both writing the original sketch and then orchestrating it, is a lot of fun. It's one of my few pure joys in life. When I finish a piece, I always feel a little disappointed that the challenge is over and the fun has ended. Then I gotta find something else to work on. Anyway, let's listen to 3 minutes of scherzo in an early Romantic style, and in particular, in the style of Schubert's symphonic scherzos. Thank you so much for staying with me until the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed learning about music here, and make sure to subscribe and hit that like button.